Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
The Texas Department of Public Safety has suspended over 1.3 million driver's licenses over an unconstitutional revenue-generating scheme that has put millions of Texans in double jeopardy, essentially double taxing individuals for traffic violations. So let's say you get a speeding ticket, or God forbid you're caught driving without car insurance. Not only do you have to pay a fine for the original citation, but now they are also forcing you to pay an added surcharge on top of that. And I tell you what, it's expensive too. And this is totally outside of the court system. The annual surcharges are even more costly than the original ticket fees. And they cost anywhere on average about, $2,000. And if you don't pay the ransom fee, or if you are late on one single payment, guess what? Your driver's license is suspended. So far, like I said, over 1 million people in Texas have lost their driving privileges because of this draconian program. But hey, it generates lots of money to the state, and that's what makes it so difficult to get rid of. And joining us now is former Texas Deputy Sheriff and host of Rule of Law Radio, Eddie Craig. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I tell you what, George Orwell would be proud of the title of this program. It's called the Texas Driver Responsibility Program. It was created, from what I understand, to generate money for medical centers and roads while encouraging safer driving. So far, the state of Texas has tried to collect $1.8 billion worth of surcharges, but more than 60% of the amount billed has gone uncollected. What do you know about the program, and what are people doing to repeal the program?
As far as repealing it, that I don't know, but I'm trying to educate people on what this program applies to and what it doesn't. The most important thing to understand about it is that it is completely unconstitutional in how it's being applied to the people of Texas, first off. What this surcharge is not determined by a jury for being convicted of some sort of crime or any other offense. This is attached after the fact without the jury ever reviewing the money award that is being given to the state through these fees. When you go to trial and face a jury over a traffic citation, for instance, if you are under one of the programs that these fees apply to, like the Financial Responsibility Act, when they collect these fees after a conviction, that fee comes out of monies other than what the jury ruled against you for and what the fine limit in the actual statute is. Now, the important thing also to understand about that is that not only do these relate only to those people that are engaging in transportation, but these assessments of fees without a judicial determination of guilt in relation to those fees being determined by a jury or by a judge would be a bill of pains and penalties under any constitution in the land. And those are specifically prohibited here.
Well, I'm just shocked that this thing got, passed to begin with. And it's been a program since it was effective in 2003. But there are people that I've talked to and that I've read about who are still paying fines 10 years later. There was a woman, she was a 28-year-old mother who was driving her sister's car. Her sister had just passed away. She was driving her sister's car. She got pulled over. The car was not insured, so she paid the ticket, right? She paid the ticket right away. But then months later, she found out that there was these surcharges that she was unaware of. Her license was suspended. And she was a pizza delivery person. She lost her job, and she has, since this time, has dumped thousands of dollars of trying to get her license back and just added charges from her original ticket 10 years ago. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous. This is one of the things about the Texas legislature giving over to a third-party collection agency these fees. The Department of Public Safety is the specific state agency in Texas that is given authority over these fees. The way the statute is written and the system is set up works more or less like this. Once a citation has been issued to an individual, if that citation involves a charge to which one of these types of administrative fees applies, 30 days after that ticket is written and filed with the court, that court will then send a notice to the Department of Public Safety to levy those fees, even if the person has never even been to trial in the matter or even been convicted. You will spend a lot of time and effort trying to get the DPS to withdraw those fees, even if you win the case or the charges are dismissed. They've already levied them against you and you've never been convicted of anything. This is just another underhanded way of doing civil asset forfeiture, except it's limited strictly to your money. They don't care who they're harming with this program. They don't care that it's being illegally applied to the general public when it is specifically limited by law to only those people engaged in the commercial occupation we call transportation. It was never meant to be applied to the general public. But even applied to those that agreed to it through accepting a license to engage in a business, it is still a denial of due process. It is still a bill of pains and penalties that is outlawed by the state constitution, the federal constitution, and every other constitution.
Well,
everything about this program is illegal.
Absolutely, and I think this quote says it all. This was at the Texas House Committee on Homeland Security and Public Safety, where Representative Joe Pickett, he's a Democrat from El Paso. Here's his quote. "Here's the reality. We are the government, and we're not going to give up the money." So basically what they're saying is this is generating billions of dollars for the state of Texas, even though it's illegal. They're not willing to give it up.
Absolutely. And that representative right there should have been charged with treason and immediately arrested. He confessed to that in open session in front of 2 or more witnesses. That's treason.
You know, this reminds me.
They could charge him with that.
This whole thing reminds me of not only redcoats, but I picture a mob boss going into a neighborhood stores and asking for protection money. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, how is this any different from a mobster stealing money from innocent civilians?
It's not, but it's not even under the guise of protection. It's you're going to pay us, or we're going to burn your house down and destroy your family and your ability to earn a living. We don't care if we offer you anything in return. You're just going to pay us. And that's essentially what it comes down to. Our government is now controlled by a bunch of thugs, thieves, and crooks of every level and magnitude you can imagine. They're no longer representatives because by the very definition of a representative, they have the power to represent you, which means the limit of their authority is the same limit that your authority would be. If I can't go to my neighbor and demand that they pay me a fee just because I want one, then neither can my representative. And calling yourself government does not make the crime any less a crime. That's the part they don't seem to understand.
And I tell you what, this hits close to home for me because I'm experiencing this firsthand myself because I got pulled over in a truck that I was driving that was not insured. I was hit with the surcharge. I have to pay $2,000 in installment payments for 3 years. And guess what? If I miss a payment or if I'm late on a payment, it says my license will be suspended. So I'm seeing it firsthand for myself.
Yeah, those fees never applied to you to begin with, nor did the license requirement, which we've discussed before on the show. In fact, I've got a new set of motions I'm doing now that exposes this when you're taken into court and forces the court to have to admit on the record or show that they're not going to play by the rules regardless of what they say, kind of like what this representative admitted he's going to do as a representative. That shows unequivocally that this entire thing is a racket. It's been a racket from day one. In the Texas Administrative Code is given specific authority over the Transportation Code. Every chapter of the Transportation Code dealing with public safety and enforcement is delegated authority to the Department of Public Safety, not to any other agency. But in the Administrative Code, it says very clearly that the mission's limits of what the DPS is there for is to regulate and supervise commercial and for-hire traffic and to supervise traffic on rural highways. Now, you get that? The regulate part is linked to commercial and for-hire traffic. And then later on in the same section of the Administrative Code, it says very clearly that the Department of Public Safety programs that they administer, licensing, financial responsibility, and registration, or inspection, are all limited to that mission statement, commercial and for-hire traffic. The bill, SB 971, that created that code, says very clearly in its caption that the subject matter it regulates is transportation, not travel by the general public who is not engaged in the occupation of transportation. Yes, this is a racket. These people are required to know the limits of the laws they're trying to enforce, and they are doing it against the public illegally anyway.
So there is an active group that are out there trying to repeal it, but it's always interesting to me to see the lobbyists and to see the politicians. It's almost like a two steps forward, one step back type of reaction. So rather than repeal or just get rid of the entire program, their solution is, hey, I tell you what, how about anybody that makes less than $27,000 a year, they won't have to pay as big of a fine. Or let's give incentives for those who to pay up front, they won't have to pay as much. I mean, regardless, it's unconstitutional and it's unfair. They need to repeal and get rid of this entire program.
Absolutely. And you're right. It is unconstitutional. What you're talking about there is an unequal application of the law. You're talking about basing it on an income level. Now you're talking about an income tax under another name. That's
hey, look,
all
I don't care if you're a millionaire or a billionaire. It is unfair. You know, I don't care how much money you make. Now, it's definitely a hardship on those lower income families. I can only imagine. I mean, can you imagine $2,000 fine on top of an ticket that you've probably already paid $300? I mean, this is devastating. This is devastating families. It's not helping Texans. It's harming Texans.
Well, right now, the Department of Justice is after the Texas courts for creating another debtor's prison, which I'm sure you're well aware of.
Oh, yeah.
These Texas traffic courts are throwing people in jail for non-payment of fines, even though they cannot sentence the person to jail for the act itself. And they're throwing them in jail for not paying a fine. The problem there is, first off, they denied you in your right to assistance of counsel, which no court in Texas is authorized to do under the Bill of Rights. They cannot create a law or any doctrine in any court that denies you of anything in the Bill of Rights. And one of those is the right to the assistance of counsel. It doesn't say if you can't afford it. It says you have the right to it. It doesn't say you have to use an attorney, but they force you to do it, who then throws you under the bus during the trial by not going after the actual key issues that would get the case thrown out, either because they don't care, they don't know, and they're completely incompetent, no matter which way you slice it. So here we have a situation where they have taken these unconstitutional acts by the courts to deprive you of the ability to avoid the fine in the first place by denying you assistance of counsel, thus guaranteeing that you will be convicted in almost every instance because no one knows how to defend themselves in these courts that don't play by the rules to begin with.
Well, that's
then
right.
They turn around and throw you in jail when you don't pay.
And that's key right there. Nobody knows how to defend themselves. Eddie Craig, Rule of Law Radio. Last question. We're almost out of time. What do we do to fight this?
We need to be suing everybody involved. The Department of Public Safety, the agencies, the legislative members, they can declare immunity all they want. They don't have immunity for violating the Texas Constitution or the federal Constitution.
That's right.
They should know that by now.
That's right. All right. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Look forward to having you back again soon.
Thank you.
Get Brain Force at 25% off for a limited time at InfoWarsLife.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're going to crash afterwards. And the cool thing about this is it's not just a bunch of energy compounds that are going to fire your brain up to a higher RPM or whatever, which it does do. This is sustainable. This isn't going to spike and you're going to collapse and you're going to feel really bad afterwards. afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We're looking at the television screen for research purposes, whatever we've been doing, trying to learn something, or staring at the computer all day, working, doing good. You're still damaging your brain.
You will find Brain Force and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Get Brain Force at 25% off for a limited time at InfoWarsLife.com. And we thank you for your support.